I ended up being in Amway LTD for 2.5 years. And in that time, I only sponsored one person. Um, I lost about $18,000 in the process of uh, just all the products purchased, all of the conferences traveled, and all of the gas spent going from Wisconsin to Chicago every week or multiple times a week. And
Hey, thanks for coming back to my channel. My name is Crystal, and as you saw from that introduction, today I get to interview Sarah from SarahGirl here on YouTube. She was also an LTD for a couple of years, about 2.5 years, and she shares her whole journey on her YouTube channel, and I was really comforted to find her channel when I was leaving LTD. So today I got a chance to interview her, talk to her, and find out some pretty interesting things about her journey when she was in LTD. So stick around, watch your interview, and I'll come back afterwards to share some more things. Well, hey, Sarah, thank you so much for joining me today. When I first left LTD, you were the only video I saw on YouTube that shared your experience from actually being in LTD. I've seen others of people who were in Brit Worldwide, Worldwide Dream Builders, but you were actually in LTD as well. And I watched your videos and I was like, I knew it. I knew that I wasn't crazy. Thank you so much for just your courage and your transparency while you were making those videos here on YouTube. So thank you for sitting down with me and letting me just kind of hear more about your story and kind of what you went through. So I guess, yeah, tell us more about yourself and how you got involved with Amway through LTD.
yeah, thank you for having me on your channel. I will never turn down an opportunity to talk about this because uh trauma. So I'm like, let's spread the word. Um, so I was just coming out of college. I had just dropped out of college actually. Um, and had just moved back to my hometown, and somebody hit me up on LinkedIn, and I ignored their first message, but then they messaged me again, and I'm like, all right, you're offering me this opportunity. And I go into detail on this whole process. Within the first 6 videos of my channel, I'm like, let me lay it out for you exactly how I got in and what the red flags are to look for. But I was just at the point of dropping out of college. I mean, I was a wreck, and I was desperate for whatever opportunity anybody would offer me. So um yeah, I met with them, and I was kind of ambivalent about the whole business thing, but what really got me was when my upline mentor introduced me to this book. I actually have it here, The Greatest Miracle in the World by Og Mandino. And um it basically just talks about the value of someone's life and how, every life is a miracle. And basically they got me on a spiritual level. They got me believing in myself again and believing in the value of my life. And from that angle, they recruited me in. And so I ended up being in Amway LTD for 2.5 years. And in that time, I only sponsored one person. I lost about $18,000 in the process of uh, just all the products purchased, all of the conferences traveled, and all of the gas spent going from Wisconsin to Chicago every week or multiple times a week. And yeah, I lost a lot of friends, a lot of family relationships were damaged, and um, I delayed going back to school for another like 2 or 3 years. When I had the opportunity, my upline discouraged me going back to school. So yeah, it disrupted my life in a major way. But
Wow.
yeah, I ended up leaving in like summer of 2019 was when I got out.
Oh my gosh. So, first of all, let's go back to when you said you lost about $18,000. I mean, that's like the cost of a car. You could have bought a car, you know what I mean, with that money. How did you? I know for me, I was looking at how much I was spending, but I should have really made like a spreadsheet. so I could have seen how things were actually adding up. But 18,000, did you realize it was that much?
Yeah. I mean, it was, I wasn't like keeping track of like, all right, this is how much money I've invested in my business, and this is how much money I've like, I didn't actually run it like you would imagine an actual serious business owner would run it. But because I wasn't making any sales and our group wasn't, they never emphasized making sales. Um, I didn't have any income from the business, so I kind of figured that it wasn't actually like a legitimate business yet. And for some reason, I just kept buying into the dream and buying into the hope, and believing in myself and speaking my affirmations that I was going to go diamond when I had not made one red cent from that business. So yeah, I did go back and tally it up, and that's kind of how I went through. I went through my bank statements, but also my upline had me submit my bank statements to them. Not all the time, but like there were budgeting sessions where they would have me submit my bank statements and then submit, whatever bills I needed to pay. And then they would work out my financial situation and tell me what I could spend where. And it was to a point where I had $30 of discretionary spending per month. And that was with donating plasma twice a week to get that donation money. So it wasn't even my full-time job income. It was also donating twice a week.
So I find it interesting that you said that your line of sponsorship didn't encourage like getting customers, because we had lots of meetings where they talked about getting customers. They encouraged us having customers. So your group didn't?
We talked briefly, like in our info sessions, we would have the first part of the info session is when our guests are invited and they're giving the whole business pitch after having been through several interviews prior to being invited to the info session meeting. And then after the guests are, walked out and, their portion leaves, then the current business owner stayed for a training. And those trainings typically were about products. And some tips about getting customers. But when it came down to the end of the month, making sure that your PV had all been reported, my upline was like, just report your PV, like the PV that you had purchased as customer PV. Okay. So that was, I mean, the website never had a way of verifying whether or not that was a legitimate customer purchase. So my upline was just having us report our own purchases as sales. Mm-hmm. And they didn't really even want us talking about Amway to strangers anyway, because the whole point was for us to recruit other people. And the way that they recruit people is by not talking about the business, but building trust with people first and then springing the business on them. So talking about products and the business that I was in was kind of counterintuitive to the recruitment, the way that they trained us in recruiting, which was scammy as heck. But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We were taught to recruit first, or I guess talk to people to recruit first. And then if they didn't want to, then talk about them being a customer. So either it was you're going to have a new leg or you're going to have a new customer. That was how we were taught to also approach people when we were networking or in the marketplace, like they said. You mentioned from that book how they kind of got you from a spiritual perspective. What did that book do to you that kind of made you, because you said you were kind of at a low point when when they first talked to you. What did that book really do to you spiritually that made you go, well, I'm just going to go ahead and go all in?
Honestly, on my channel, I do a lot of deconstructing of different things. based on religion and faith, and I was homeschooled and all of that. So there's a lot of my mentality that I've dissected and parsed out what's truth, what's something that I want to get rid of. So at that point, I had just gotten out of college, and I mean, it just seemed like every single one of my decisions at that point had turned to failure. And so I was physically unwell, I was mentally unwell, and clearly very emotionally unwell. So, and I didn't have any friends or anything other than the friends that I had just left behind in college. And so I kind of just felt alone. And so the fact that there was someone there who was offering to walk alongside me and mentor me, and then on top of that, they give me a book that, for some reason, the way that it's written just really broke it down to the nth degree about how special life is, that it was this is going to sound a little culty, but it really did feel like a rebirth. So it was like my upline was offering me salvation. And I remember looking across the table from my upline mentor and telling him that I'm trusting him with everything that I have left, every financial resource and every emotion that I have left. And if this is just something that they're using to scam me out of my money, and this is all just a lie, then there's a special place in hell for you. Because yeah, I was down to nothing. I was just broken. So they offered me hope.
So when you talk about like that trust, that rapport that you built with your upline, did you ever feel that trust being manipulated in any way? Like, were you ever emotionally or spiritually manipulated while you were kind of in Amway for those years?
I wouldn't say I felt that way while I was in. I mean, I was hook, line, and sinker, just sold out to my upline. I mean, I think at one point I even said, you know, when you shake the hand of said upline mentor and you look deeply into his eyes, you are looking into the eyes of Christ. Like you are feeling the love of Christ in your soul. And there were times where I was deeply hurt and deeply emotionally abused and humiliated, and I accepted that for myself. I never thought that that was abusive or manipulative until after the fact.
Now I want to be like nosy. What do you feel comfortable sharing? Like
open book.
Are you comfortable sharing what instances were abusive, and in the moment you didn't realize it, but looking back, you're like, that was totally like, what was he doing?
Yeah. So yeah, this is self-disclosure, just no shame. But we were at a conference, and anybody who's been in Amway LTD specifically, or any of the other organizations, there's this concept of chasing the heat, chasing the upline, getting around your upline mentors, and, you know, trying to get any nuggets of wisdom that they have to pass on to you. And so we were at a conference, and my whole team, my upline's upline, and my downline, and I were all part of this like caravan, and we were invited to have lunch with my upline mentors, and they were my upline platinums at the time. And so we get to the restaurant. It's the restaurant in the hotel of the conference. We get there, we're all pulling up seats and, you know, putting our coats on the backs of the seats. And my upline mentor looks me in the eye and says, I'm sorry, Sarah, we don't have room for you because we're waiting for a couple other people. And so in front of my whole team, including my downline, I was dismissed from the table, and my broken self chose to sit at a table that was in earshot but out of eyesight of the table that my upline was in. And this was the hotel restaurant, and it was a weird hour of the day, so there was no one else in the restaurant. I just sat by myself at a single table and ate a hamburger alone while I'm hearing the meeting going on, and like everybody's laughing and joking, whatever. And it's, I mean, we all know that at a restaurant you can squeeze a chair in. If you're dedicated, you can squeeze a chair in. But no, they just, yeah, I ate lunch by myself, single glistening tear streaming down my cheek as I'm trying to listen to whatever nuggets that may have been dropped, or if they were having any meaningful conversation. Of course, I couldn't hear anything meaningful. And when they got up and left, they saw me sitting there. And later, my upline mentioned to me, like, you know, we saw you going the extra mile, and upline mentor also noticed that, and this is something that we take note of. And so, like, keep going, because you're really putting in the effort and chasing the heat. So that whole situation was praised, but like I was publicly humiliated for no reason. It was bizarre. It was bizarre.
I am so sorry that happened to you. That doesn't even make any sense, because like you said, they could have easily pulled a chair up behind somebody else's chair. And that's one thing I forgot about. I think I must have like wiped it from my memory, was all that chasing the heat stuff. And they would like encourage foolishness. I mean, it was like this whole whatever it takes to get around your upline diamond, or whoever is doing the best for that week or whatever. Whether it's, I know one time I went to it was a monthly meeting, and it was in a different state. It was in a different city. And a girl drove there from, I think she was in like Oklahoma, and we were in Texas. She got into an accident on the way, and then still managed to make it to the meeting. And they were like praising her, like, yeah. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, she just totaled her car. Like, what? You don't praise this kind of behavior. That's ridiculous to me. So hearing them say that, I'm just like, what's the purpose? It's almost like to make you, it's like to make you like desire their approval, like you're just trying to chase their yes, you're just trying to chase their approval. And that's unhealthy, in my opinion.
I agree with you. That is like, that is some serious manipulation and, cult mind control kind of stuff. And yeah, it is almost a competition of who can do the most death defying thing, to do the most extreme thing to get even an inch closer to your upline, or whatever. It's bizarre. And honestly, even being out of the business and I keep calling it the business, but really what part of it was business? I ask you. But even now, just in regular settings, like I'm in graduate school, and so I just had my last final yesterday, and my professor for the class that I was in is absolutely amazing. I would love for her to mentor me as I pursue, further career opportunities. And so at the end of class, it's the last class of the semester, and I'm not going to see her until July when I have another class with her. So I'm like standing around, and there's other students who are just trying to get a conversation with her, and like just even in that setting, I had to excuse myself, because I'm like, I'm not going to stand around in one of those circles and wait for my turn to ask my question to a professor about academics, because it felt too groupy, kind of chasing the heat upline vibes, and I was not having it. So yeah, even situations like that now is like, I won't put myself in a situation like that again.
I am so glad you said that because I feel the same way about certain things. So whenever I meet anybody and they're talking about being a mentor, I'm automatically like, nope, I don't want a mentor. Nope, because it just brings back Amway. It just brings back my experience at Amway. Whenever I see these people who are, you know, where I'm having to, like you said, wait to talk to somebody, like, I don't mind waiting, but it reminds me so much of just like you said, being an Amway and just, chasing the heat and doing all this nonsense just to be able to get around somebody, who's at a higher pin than you. And it's just like, what am I doing? I'm so glad that you said that. Because I thought it was just me. It's just certain things. Like whenever I hear certain words, I'm like, nope. Whenever I hear anything with marketing, I'm like, nope, I don't want it. I'm like, I don't want to hear about it. Sounds like MLM. I don't want it. I'm good. So that, oh, thank you for saying that. So how do you
Yeah,
think?
I mean, what?
But
Oh, I was just gonna say, with avoiding those kind of situations, it's even to our own detriment at times, because there are times when getting around somebody who can actually give you more information, or just kind of give you actually helpful advice rather than just stroking their own ego, like, that's an opportunity that, for me personally, I'll just speak from my end, like, those are opportunities that I miss because I'm too I'm just too unwilling to do what happened in the past. And it's really even like, I just quit a job. I graduated my undergraduate in May, and I did a video about quitting a job that was like seemingly my dream job, but it was a sales position. And at the first whiff of, we're not delivering what we promise our customers, I was out. It just, you don't have to tell me twice at this point. I'm not scamming nobody for nothing. And it's like, to say PTSD sounds a little extreme, but it really is just like an absolute aversion to anything that might even resemble those kind of experiences.
yeah. Yeah. So I guess there really is a deconstruction process because you're right. Like it is to our detriment because I can't just, I do need mentorship, but it's like hearing that word, I said it so much while trying to recruit people. I just feel like, what is a mentor really? You know what I mean? But you are so right. So how has the deconstruction process been for you? Um, what are you doing to try to get back to, I don't want to say normalcy, but how the way you thought about certain things before Amway LTD?
Yeah, so the deconstruction process has been hell. uh, the first couple of years out of Amway, I was posting videos on my YouTube channel, and that really helped because it gave me a sense of me doing something about the pain, and that helped me process my own emotions while also feeling like I was helping other people. And uh in the meantime, it really, it's drastic to see the lifestyle changes that I now make. I mean, now I'm in grad school. From when I started, number one, I was 80 pounds heavier when I left Amway, and I just had no financial resources whatsoever. So now I'm living in a different city. I'm working full time and not donating plasma, and I'm able to spend my money on things that I choose to spend my money on. And um, I think in terms of the deconstruction process, I still have so many questions, and leaving Amway made me come to a realization that I needed to strip every single belief that I had formed about anything if somebody had told me to believe that.
Mm.
Because I was not about to continue living my life based on what other people said I should do. And at first that sounds really empowering, but honestly, for me, it's been kind of a nightmare to trust what anybody says about anything. And even when it comes to success and ambition and spirituality and community, the trust issues run deep. And so it's not a pleasant experience. I recently read a quote and I forget who it's by, but it was something along the lines of I had the fortune of being made aware of other people's pain. And I think it's one of those, the Matrix metaphor, that like getting out of Amway was like taking the red pill or whatever color. But yeah, leaving Amway was like opened my eyes to so much reality beyond even what I had experienced within the business. It suddenly just completely raised my whole concept of what I knew was right and wrong, because it was like I need to reevaluate everything. So nightmare. So another big part of the deconstruction process also, as you mentioned, was therapy. I didn't get therapy right away after leaving Amway. I had to make a couple of like spiraling bad decisions first. And I talk about that on my channel. I experienced some very difficult things and kind of compounded the grief after leaving. So that's when I sought therapy. But that process was really important to deconstruct my beliefs, because talking to a therapist was an opportunity for me to tell my experiences and finally have someone who wasn't telling me that I was wrong, because my upline would gaslight me a lot for various different reasons. I mean, even just the restaurant scenario that I told you about, it's like that was a normal thing. And everybody at that table thought that that was a normal thing. And so to be out of that setting and talking to someone who can kind of ungaslight me, who can affirm that I wasn't crazy for thinking that that was wrong, was really important. And I'm still in therapy now, and it's more of working through cognitive distortions, which is something that anybody who experiences a high amount of anxiety or depression probably can relate to the idea of just feeling very alone, and for reasons of, some conditioned thoughts and patterns of behaviors that can be really destructive. And so I've moved on from, just needing to feel like I wasn't crazy. And now I'm able to actually work through some of those beliefs that I need to actually reframe and rethink. So that was a big part of deconstruction for me, and still is.
Wow, that's powerful. So how is life after Amway?
Well, it's been 3.5 years since leaving, and a lot has changed since then. I have lost 80 pounds, and I financially was able to save money, pay off all of the credit card debt that I had racked up in the business, and get my credit score. I think my credit score is like 100 points higher than it was when I left Amway. So making a lot better decisions in that sense. I went back to school, so I finished my undergraduate degree, and now I've finished a semester of my graduate degree. So I'm well on my way to finally getting a career in something that I feel is contributing to people's well-being and healing. So, I mean, mental health wise, I think that Amway really because of the deconstruction process, I'm not going to lie and say that my whole life is like so much easier now. It really is, financially, emotionally. My relationships with my family are so much better, and you know, I've healed friendships with people and invested in friendships with people. So it's yes, my life is transformed and so much better after leaving Amway. If anybody's thinking about leaving Amway, it it's so much better outside. But also for me, like, now going through that deconstruction process, I'm not gonna lie, it's hard, and it can feel lonely because very few people understand exactly the amount of emotional and even just like financial and thought control and behavior control, everything that is involved in leaving a cult. Everybody that I've talked to who has left Amway has experienced that to some degree. And it's a challenge, but it's worth it. So yeah, my life is better. It's just my problems are not all solved by, you know, just leaving. Now it's like I actually am able to make progress toward my goals rather than just spinning my wheels in a business that was never gonna go anywhere for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And when we spoke before, you talked about how controlling your uplines were, because that was the motto, was like consult upline. With every decision you were making, it was consult upline. And I made so many decisions without consulting upline. I did what I wanted. But I know for you, you did consult upline for meetings. That's why you didn't go to school. That's why you didn't do certain things, because there was this level of control that, you know, one of your uplines wanted to have over you all. So I can imagine just how separate it is. Like, it's almost like you've really found freedom now. It's like night and day, because you can make your own decisions without consulting anyone. Like, you could do whatever you want.
Yeah. And so I think that is the process of like growing pains. That's like, oh, I suddenly am making my own decisions and realizing that some things are daunting. And whereas before I had just kind of trusted my autonomy to people who did not have my best interest at heart, which was so dangerous. So, but yeah, I did. I had to consult my upline about the car that I bought, about the apartment that I moved into, about any job that I got. They were trying to get me to move closer to them, and so get a job closer to them. And that was a whole debacle. Like, yeah, for 2.5 years, I never read a single book that was not recommended to me by my upline. And I hardly listened to music because I was listening to audio tapes. I mean, yeah, they had so much control over my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And even just controlling the people that you tell what information. When you're in Amway and you're really trying to believe the dream, you're trying to speak positive, you're trying to just fake it until you make it, but you don't even acknowledge that that's what it is that you're doing. Like, you're just making it, but honestly you are faking it. And to the outside world of non-Amway people, you don't want to say that you're struggling because you want them in your business. You want, or if they're not going to join your business, you at least want them to not criticize you for your lifestyle. So you're not going to tell them anything that's going wrong. And then in the business, you're not allowed to spread negative to anybody outside of your upline. So you're not going to tell any of your reality if it's at all negative. You're not going to tell that to your cross line or to your downline. And you're supposed to consult with your upline about those things, but also because of those meetings that you're trying to gain access to that are exclusive to people who are doing well, and because you're trying to get in favor with your upline, you're also not going to tell your struggles to your upline because you want your upline to believe in you and think that you're excelling and that you're worth the time in investment for them to spend more time with you and work with you on your business. So there's nobody you can say anything to that is at all real, at all negative. And so, yeah, that is, I mean, incredibly lonely, incredibly isolating.
Yep. I agree. I totally agree. So, what advice would you give to someone who is wanting to leave Amway and they just don't know how, or they don't know that they should leave Amway? What would you say to someone in that position?
I would say number one, look at the facts. Don't look at the stories. Don't look at the anecdotal little stories of, you know, someone was climbing in a dumpster and now they're a diamond. Like, don't listen to the 1 in a million chances. Look at the facts. Look at your bank account. Look at your relationships. Honestly evaluate your movement in the business from, you know, when you started until now. Honestly evaluate that. And beyond just looking at the facts, I would also encourage you to get multiple sources of input and not have that all be your upline. Your upline is going to tell you to stay. Your upline is not going to say, do what's best for you. Your upline is not going to say, you know, if that's better for your health or your finances or your marriage, then you need to take time to sort that out. They're not going to say that. They're going to say that they're the answer to your problems. So you're going to want to have input from people who are also not in the business, and to be able to receive input from people who are not in the business, you have to understand that people who choose not to do Amway are not all losers and lack ambition and want to stay broke or want to, you know, not strive for anything in life. I mean, you have to respect the voices of people outside of the business in order to receive the honest feedback that they have for you. So the last thing that I would say, because of the mind bubble, I mean, even just telling you, like, even just giving the advice of, you know, learn to respect people who aren't in the business and learn to accept their feedback, that might actually be too tall of an order for anybody who's in Amway. Like, because I know for me, I was not receiving anything that did not come from my upline, because if it wasn't coming from my upline, the people that were outside of the business simply didn't understand. They haven't been to enough meetings, or they haven't heard what I've heard or seen what I've seen in order to know the truth. And so I wasn't accepting any information from them. Mm-hmm. But what I would say is, if you're considering leaving Amway, especially like Amway LTD, don't go to a conference. I don't care if you have already purchased your conference ticket from the last conference, because those tickets go on sale the day after the last conference, so that you're purchasing that conference ticket on the high from that conference. Yep. Even if you have your ticket, don't go. Because your upline will try to convince you to go to the next conference because, well, you already have your ticket and why waste that ticket? But you're going to go to that conference. You're going to have the groupthink mentality. You're going to get the energy that's similar to like a concert energy or a church service energy, where all of those people in the same room are bringing the same hope and just the same delusion, I want to say, but that environment is conducive to getting you to buy into the dream, even if it's false, especially if it's a conference where you have to drive a long time to get there. You're staying up late nights in the hotel doing night owls or screech owls, and you're just low on sleep, which is also another mind control tactic. Going to a conference or going to a night owl where your thinking is impaired due to lack of sleep, and then the influence is magnified and multiplied because of the group mentality. that by avoiding that, you are removing yourself from the bubble so that you can see clearly. And that, I think, would be the best advice that I could give anybody who's considering leaving. That's essential for you to have an objective outlook on your situation.
Mm-hmm. That was great. I really enjoyed speaking with you, and I really enjoyed hearing your perspective of things. So thank you so much for sitting down with me and being as transparent as you are. I'm going to link all your information in the description box below so that everybody can get in contact with you and look at your videos also. And thank you again. I greatly appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you, Crystal. It's been a pleasure, and I'm always ready to share my experience. So thank you for giving me that opportunity.
Of course. I hope you enjoyed that interview. I have all of her information linked in the description below. Her channel, a playlist of how she actually went through LTD and got out of it, and also her contact information if you want to contact her in the future. Let me know if you want to contact me as well. I have my information linked below. And if you have any stories or anything that happened to you that you want to share with me, feel free to email me if you'd like to. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.